But I have a question on this one. My question is, should we make sure each new board member gets a copy of Robert's Rules of Order? We gave them out last time to all the board members.
We do.
Yeah,
Can we make sure that from now on out, since we're saying they got to follow it and it's in a policy, it might be a good idea.
Dr. Cuneo,
Yes.
I've been giving that out every year, and I have
Great.
extras in my office, so when we get new board
Fantastic.
members, they're there.
Fantastic. Never mind then. I just thought that would be a good idea to make sure we always had people with them. All righty. Anybody else have anything on this one? BDDG.
Board minutes.
Everything's capitalized anyway like that. I appreciate how we're not capitalizing everything anymore.
Yeah, the only other change here was acknowledging that minutes are not always being kept in a physical book. So there's the language there about system, because it could be a different technological system.
Makes sense.
I have everything that's in here is fine. I just have a question on what one thing means, so somebody can explain it to me. Last paragraph, the closing of executive session votes and records shall be determined by a majority vote of the quorum of the board present in the open session. What does that mean?
That's poorly worded. Yes, you're right.
I was trying to figure out what it meant.
Yeah.
That when
I'm
we
not
vote to
disagreeing,
have
I just didn't know what it
a closed
meant.
session.
Mhm.
It's still vote to go into closed session, right?
Yeah, isn't that what that means?
Yeah, I think to go into a closed session, you have to have a
Majority
vote.
of
The vote has to be, it has to be in person. It has to be individual
session.
votes, and it has to be recorded. But I didn't know, is that what this is saying?
Yeah.
What's throwing it is that it starts with the closing of executive session as opposed to establishing executive session or something along those lines.
Can we say something like to go into a executive session, there must be a roll call vote that is agreed upon by the quorum or that by a majority vote of the quorum of the board present in the open session.
Mhm.
This doesn't say that. If it says it, I didn't know what it said.
So what if we just change the beginning of it to say to move the meeting, to establish a closed executive session or,
I was thinking prior to the board going or attending or moving into closed session.
Or we could say something like, the Board of Education votes in an open meeting to go into a closed session of the board. I don't know.
I actually like prior to closed session.
Prior to closed session, yeah.
Prior to moving into executive session, the board shall vote and determine the majority vote of the quorum of the board of it.
Of the board present, and then
Mhm.
period.
In open, yep.
Because we have to have something about it's a roll call vote. And we have to say something about prior to going into an open session, to a closed session. And I'm guessing that's what it means. Votes, I said records, it means that it must be records. Votes and records shall be, I'm not sure what that means.
votes and records shall be determined by the majority vote.
Let's
How about
do
we
it.
just, you
I'm in agreement with the idea, but
Yeah, we just do
I'm
it.
trying to figure out what we're trying to say.
Yeah, let's just do a new sentence.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if we say a majority vote of a quorum of the board present in open session is necessary to establish closed executive session.
Or is
John, I'm
necessary to
jotting
hold
things
a
up,
board
Herbert.
meet- An executive session.
So a majority vote of a quorum of the board present in open session is required to establish closed executive session.
Majority of a vote in an open session.
Taken. Just saying. How about prior to going into a closed session, a roll call vote must be taken and approved by a quorum of the, by a majority of the quorum of those board members present.
Can you get it to me again one more time, Dr. Cuneo?
Prior to going into a closed session,
Mm-hmm.
a roll call vote must be taken and approved by a quorum of those board members present in open session. That's still a little awkward, but it's, at least it gets the idea correct.
Hi, guys. I'm sorry I'm joining late. I have a question.
Yes,
Jumping in the middle. Is there a difference between a quorum of board members and a quorum of the board members present?
There is. So you have to have a quorum to have a meeting. So you have to have 4 to have a meeting. And then to establish closed session, you need to have a quorum of those that are present. So if, let's say we had 4 that were present, you would need at least 3 to vote for closed session for that motion to carry.
Is that different than a majority?
Well, otherwise you'd have a 2-2 tie. So you wouldn't have a majority if you had 4. Or if you had
No, I
5
was just
present.
in that case.
no,
if
you could say
quorum-
majority of those present, yeah.
Yeah.
I just think that sentence has to be changed, because I didn't know what it meant. Now I know what it means. I'm willing to go with whatever anybody says that it means if they write it down.
Yep. Okay, I got it. So I will remove what's there and then replace it with this new language.
All right, and can you shoot that back to us next time? It'll only take us a second, that way we can approve it.
Yep.
And since this one's been around since 71 and was last approved 10 years ago, I don't think there's gonna be any problems with waiting.
You don't feel the urgency.
No, I don't think that one's going to destroy us if we.
Anything with the regulation?
Just there's another capital B.
Oh,
And-
yep.
I know I wasn't here for the last one, but I think there was a capital D that was in one of the previous ones as well. But we'll get that in a couple of years next time.
BJ school board memberships, I don't see anything other than getting rid of the kid. We don't like
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, there is a capital B I see on the 3rd line. Now
Board
that I see that.
secretary. Mhm.
Get rid of that B,
Mm-hmm.
then fine.
BK is not attached.
Yeah, this one was not attached. I didn't see it before when I was looking through that.
Which one is that one?
BK. Okay. Amy, if you want to I can share my screen and share it. It's just grammatical changes. Or actually, no, the reason why it's not attached.
Isn't this what we're getting rid of?
This is the policy
Yes.
we're getting rid of. But-
Just I guess the question is, do we want to look at it before we get rid of it?
Yeah,
We were the only ones that still had this, wasn't it, other than Lindbergh?
that's correct. So Lindbergh is the only one in the county that still has it. And then in the entire state, I could only find about 3 other districts that have. And it's just because they've had it on the books for a very long time and just haven't cycled it off. But this is the policy that outlines that the board will evaluate the board on an annual basis, but pretty much everybody's gotten rid of it to give the board the latitude to determine if and when and how they want to evaluate themselves.
Yeah, and we can still set up goals whenever, in fact, we talked about setting up goals last
Mhm.
time.
Yeah,
That's fine.
yep.
This is KI as well. We were just adjusting some of the language to match some current issues that we were having, minor grammatical errors.
So nothing in this, yeah.
Yeah, nothing major, just some clarification.
Sorry, is this the one about the advertisements?
Right.
Mhm.
Yes.
I just had a question about the revenue producing towards the bottom of the.
Mhm.
um, Here we go, revenue generating advertising. It doesn't specifically say that, I mean, I assume this is like having somebody's logo on, but it doesn't say anything about identifying those as being advertisements. And I was wondering if that should be part of a policy as well, that when we do have sponsorship or advertisements, if we should identify them as such.
Huh. It's interesting.
Would
Mhm.
we ever have that?
So we
I'm trying to
have
think of-
had it. So Wendy, it's more often that we see this with events
Mhm.
where you might have a fundraiser for a school that's being sponsored by XYZ. Or you might have, like when Ackerman would do their 5K, they would have corporate sponsorship for the 5K.
Okay,
And so that would be revenue generating. We haven't done a lot of, we don't do ads on our website, but
Mhm.
Huh.
The fact
Well,
that it's not,
I think Netflix might, so maybe we should, you know.
Let's not do
I mean, I
that.
realize this is strictly like a logo and the name or so in other words, it's not like we're talking up something, but again, I don't know if just identifying it as being a sponsorship is necessary. And I'm curious what other people think, because again, it's not like there's, an actual video advertisement taking place or something like that.
Is there any reason why we would have to be careful of tying ourselves to a sponsor since we are a non-for-profit and they might be a profit?
No.
Okay.
So,
Or
So the
like
only thing would
they
be-
have,
sorry, go ahead, Wendy.
I'm sorry, Kevin, or like they have certain, like I'm thinking with the issue with Chick-fil-A, like certain values that may not be, like if we advertise, would that be a problem of it? Or if we have them as a sponsor?
So, I mean, that's why the policy has the latitude that at the discretion of the principal
Okay.
Mhm.
of the school involved, and talks about how you have to have district approval. And so
I mean, oh, go ahead. So I'm sorry, I'm cutting you off.
oh no, go ahead, Dr. Asner.
Well, I'm just recalling an incident when I was in high school where a new soda was, I think, being marketed, and they were handing out free samples at the cafeteria in school.
Mhm.
And, I mean, very clearly this was an attempt to just get the kids into this particular product. But again, I can't, I hope that's not happening at our schools.
It's not.
But,
No,
No, sir.
but you can appreciate that we would just want to identify what's happening as marketing if it's happening.
Mhm.
And yeah, I get, right. If Chick-fil-A's logo is, on the flyer for whatever, that's one thing. People, I think, recognize that for being, for being what it is, as opposed to somebody, for example, on a radio show talking up the product without identifying it as being an advertisement. That won't happen in this case because of the limitations, but get curious what people think.
Well, I think it's not, I mean, my thought was to be as long as that there is, which it is in the policy to talk about being district approved. And so there are those cross references to those pieces. I think that those cross references really have a key piece in ensuring that the I guess correct advertising is in order.
Because I think it would be simple to just say, such advertising or sponsorship should be clearly identified as such.
So would this language work, Dr. Asner, of whenever possible, the district will identify when an item is an advertisement as opposed to a district endorsement?
Yeah.
I like that.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good.
Or if ambiguous, I guess that's the question. I want to avoid ambiguity. Like I said, it's pretty clear when something is a sponsorship if they've just got their logo on, on a banner.
Yeah. So if it is unclear whether or not it is an advertisement.
Yeah. Probably doesn't come up much in the way that things are restricted already.
Yeah. Anything else with KI?
Were there any questions about KNHA?
None.
Okay.
I have just, how does this work? We have never had any difficulties with the SRO, have we?
We have not.
This just talks about state and federal educational agency relations. We actually kicked around, Kevin and I, in a discussion, not having this as a policy, but we are open for discussion.
This is another one that a lot of districts in the state have let go. This was tied to an older version of MSIP.
It felt pretty loosey-goosey to me as I was reading it.
I'm trying to figure out what it means.
It means that basically we will keep our relationship with the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education in harmony. That's the gist of it.
What it really means is that if there's ever a
Why would
PR
we
issue,
not? Yeah.
it ever means that if there's ever a PR issue, we can say it is our policy to cultivate and establish healthy communications. See, it's in the policy.
Yeah.
That's all
Right.
it means.
I don't see any reason why we have it or why we don't.
I could not find another district in the state of Missouri that has this policy.
I think it's the uniqueness. What I thought long about that, Kevin, I think it's because special school district and the uniqueness of our district that this policy probably was maintained, because DESE often may not understand special school district because the uniqueness of us, that's maybe, I don't know.
But the policy doesn't tie DESE to any action. It ties us to
No.
action, and it behooves us anyway to have a positive relationship with the
Yeah.
state. So
Yes.
Exactly.
do you really need a policy telling us that we should cooperate with the state?
like having a policy that says we should follow the rules, that
Right.
govern educating students in Missouri, like, yeah,
Yeah,
but
we should follow
we don't have a
laws.
policy for that, we just need to do it.
Yeah,
Right.
I don't, I always figure less policies the better.
Mhm.
Okay, so we can remove it.
Yeah, please.
Done.
All righty. Always glad to see things go.
And then LI, we did remove.
Good.
Yeah, and again, says nothing.
Doesn't say anything.
Okay, good. There's 3 of them.
All right, that's good.
Yeah.
Is that it?
That's all she wrote. I think we're finished.
Awesome.
All right, it did in less than a half hour. That's great. All right, everyone have a great weekend.
You too.
You too, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.